Welcome back to the studio, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Radiant Garden. Radiant Garden was originally a block of the month for Urban Elements, but we're past that. That was a few years ago, but we still have the kits available now. And so I personally will say block of the month or kit interchangeably, but basically it's a kit available for purchase. If you are a quilt shop, these are still available wholesale for you to do a block of the month with, if that's something that your quilt shop wanted to participate in, or you wanted to suggest to your local quilt shop. We can set that up as a wholesale function. So we are in block number 3 of this particular series, and the original video was me just cutting the background fabric and getting that ready. I was also talking a little bit about my fabric choices for the background, which is how you would personalize your kit. I've already pre-selected the background, the inner border, and the outer border based on just my taste and my years of quilting and the kit fabric. The 3 pieces didn't look, they didn't make a whole lot of sense on their own, because one's green, I think one's fuchsia, and the other one it says blue lavender. On their own, they had nothing to tie them together, but what ties them all together for me is all of the applique. And so I think, I went out on faith, climbed out that branch, out on a limb, just because I feel like the kit's going to tie it all together. And we won't know that until we get there. But I'm a risk taker, as many of you know. I am not a perfectionist. It's not my nature. For me, I love to finish something, but even more than that, I love to learn. And I learn from my mistakes as much as I learn from something that turns out just great. I like it when things turn out really great, but also if I make a mistake, I feel like I've learned something because I am paying attention to what I'm doing, even though I do like to try new things. Sometimes I try too many new things at once and blows up on my face, but I feel like I'm learning. So I have my block pre-cut for the background. I don't really feel like I need to iron these again because I've kept them so beautifully pristine while I was getting ready to shoot the video. What I do have is my kit, and I'm going to go ahead and take out of the kit my color cover sheet, and I'm going to place that in my little card holder so I can refer to that as I'm putting the pieces on. It's really helpful for some of these circles because there's multiple circles in the kit, just to make it look as close to the kit as possible. It's not necessary. I am just trying to do that because I'm doing this on behalf of Urban Elements, so trying to keep it as it was intended. Every kit has a paper placement guide. If you were downloading just the self-print, or you were ordering a paper pattern only to do your own applique, this is basically what you'd be getting, just like you would with any applique pattern. You have your paper guide, and I just like to give this a press with my dry iron. I'm pressing out the folds that we had when we packaged the pattern, because I don't want any of those folds to translate into the placement of my pieces. I want those all to translate beautifully in place. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and get my light box in place, and then I'll go ahead and open up all the pieces and kind of sort those out before I get started, and then we'll start peeling, placing, and pressing. You can see I have my light box in place. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. One of the things you'll be able to see here is that my block does not extend out far enough to do my dragonfly. So I'm going to keep the dragonfly components separate. I'm not going to place any of them on the background fabric until I get these components, these blocks, pieced together. So I will hold those separately in the bag after I get them sorted out, and we'll place those after we get the blocks together. I will go ahead and pull out my instructions. They have instructions on how to do the applique in every kit. And I'm going to make sure that I get all of my pieces out of the bag, because quite often you'll get a little bit of static cling and they'll stick in there. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I could see. Now, there's usually these come out really nice, but here you can see this piece got crinkled while it was in the packaging. So I'm going to place that over to the first aid station there and just give that a press and iron that. You can see just how quickly that little crinkle came out. So now all I have to do is let that cool for a second, and I'll be able to peel that off. I also know from experience that this piece here is almost certainly folded. So as soon as I find that, you can see here where they folded it to get it into the kit. So again, I'm going to take that to the first aid station and give it a press and get that out, because I don't want that crinkle to translate into the block. So I can let that cool, and then we should all be good. So I'm going to just start separating. Oh, let's see who packed my thing today. Today it was Vicky. Vicky has done 99.9% of all of my kits that I've opened. She seems to do a very good job of making sure all the pieces are in place. Now I'm just going to quickly separate all the different size circles that we have. And I can tell that's a dragonfly eye. Lots of circles today. Some of these will be for the dragonfly, so once I identify those, I will go ahead and get those put back into the package and save those for another day. Found another eye. Generally, these shapes are leaves. Not always, but generally. And we have a nice bright orange and rust color flower component in here today. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not going to worry about my dragonfly components until I get rid of some of the other pieces, because it's really easy to get mixed up. So I have my block positioned on the paper, and I'm just going to go ahead and start getting some of these larger pieces done. Now this first one, this first flower, there's only one flower of its kind on the whole kit, and I always look for the largest leaf in this flower and place it, and usually that helps me get the piece in place. And while I'm here, I'm going to do the two circles of this flower, and I have an orange one. And looking at the guide, we also have a kind of purple one. I'm not going to peel that one yet. Now I can go ahead and start doing some of the circles. These are easy to knock out just by looking at the colors. all I'm doing on this is it's a peel, place, and press. So if you just bend the fabric over, the paper generally peels off. If you have a problem with it sticking, you could always use a clover flower head pen to score the paper backing just enough in the center of the piece to peel the paper, and then go ahead and peel it from there. I almost never have to do that except in reference to demoing how I do it. I don't know if it has to do with my climate. I wonder just how many pieces of this fusible I have peeled off in the last 3 years. I always say that Urban Elements packages smiles inside the kit so that when you open this kit in your studio, it just releases smiles into the space. People are always commenting on the studio here how bright and cheerful the studio is, and that is in large part to these beautiful applique kits that we have throughout the studio. If you're looking for things to perk up your studio, these kits are perfect for that. And if you have a chance today, I would love it if you would post some pictures of your quilting space, just to let other people know how you have yours set up, share inspiration with other quilters. You've certainly seen this space enough times, and we don't expect it to be clean. My studio upstairs, where I do store my fabric and my projects that are in progress, is often an utter mess. I spent the other day, the whole day in the studio, putting stuff back in the bins that they go in, and I spent the whole day. I still only got it partially clean. I am like a Tasmanian devil when it comes to keeping my studio clean. When I need to work on a project, I tear through everything. Not the neatest when it comes to that. You can see how my mind jumps back and forth from one shape to another. I'm just kind of like working on a puzzle. I try and find the easy pieces first, and then I just keep filling in and with ones that I found. So that's kind of how I do it. If you had young ones, you could have them help with this. They don't have to peel the paper off. They could just put them on the placement guide, and it could help with eye-hand coordination and problem solving. If they're a little bit older, they might actually be able to help you with the placement. Okay, so I know these two pieces are the dragonfly. All four of these are the dragonfly. This is the dragonfly. This is the dragonfly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are all of the pieces to my dragonfly. I'm going to set that aside. That helps eliminate the confusion for some of the rest. We know that these pieces that are straight are the center of our flowers. So I could do those first. If you see the dotted line shows you where a pattern piece continues, but it continues underneath something else. So I'm going to study this for a second. The orange ones go second, and then, or I should say rust. This is more of a rust color. That's the same as that. On this piece, I'm always really looking at the point here. The rounded part is easy to fit in, but I want the point to come down so it's not blocking too much of the centerpiece. I know that the green will cover that if it's off a little bit, but that's what I'm looking for or looking at when I'm placing that piece. I just always think this would be a fun project that the kids could help out with. Of course, it's all skill dependent, so you would have to you would know what skill level they're at, if they could hold the iron or not, or if they could peel the paper backing off or not. Even if they had them placed incorrectly, you can always transfer these pieces because they're not permanent until they're fused. They're all repositionable, which is one of the major reasons why we use Steam-A-Seam 2 over some of the other fusible products that are on the market. We wanted definitely something that could be repositioned as needed. And we're down to the last few little nibs here. The first time we had this in a block for this kit, I did those first and then these, which share the same components. I did these this time first and this second, and I feel like it made more sense to my mind which one of these flowers was supposed to fit that space. Okay, so now that I know I have my dragonfly components, I know that this is the correct center, so I can go ahead and place that. I'm going to go ahead and scoop up my dragonfly components and put those back in the bag, making sure to get these two little ultra suede eyes. And I will put these away so that I have them when it's time to do the pieced block. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the light box off and unplug it. And I'm going to get it out of the way, and we will get to the fusing step. I've replaced the light box with my Teflon pressing sheet as I normally would at this phase of the game. Steam Seam 2, as the name implies, requires a steam component during the fusible process. If you use only a dry iron, you're not fully activating the fusible material, and you're not going to get a permanent bond. I personally do not put water in my iron because all irons fail at some point, whether just by their own making or if you've ever accidentally tripped over the cord and it dropped. So if I don't put any water in it, it can never leak. It also can never go through a self-cleaning cycle while I'm using it and sputter onto my fabric. So I just use a spray bottle rather than put water into the iron. Regardless of the quality of my iron, I know that this will work. And once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and overlay the top of my Teflon pressing sheet. And then I can go ahead and place the iron. Many of you who have watched these videos could probably repeat all of these points without me, but there's several reasons why I use the Teflon pressing sheet. The Teflon pressing sheet protects the background fabric and the applique fabric from getting scorched from the iron. It also would protect in case you do have water in your iron and the iron sputters rust out of the iron. It would only get on the Teflon pressing sheet, which you could then just wipe off. It also protects the edges of the applique. Sometimes we get a little lazy and we push the iron from side to side. Well, the edge of the sole plate could catch the edge of the applique and scrunch it up, in which case it would be under the iron and we couldn't see it, and we would be fusing it in a wrinkled way on the background. That's like a really horrible outcome. And certainly when you buy a kit, you want it to turn out nice. So that's one big thing for me. I actually have done that before I started using the pressing sheet. That's how I know that happens. We do have to account for the thickness of the pressing sheet because we have to allow for the heat to transfer through the pressing sheet and through some of the applique components that are stacked on top of each other. So the heat has to go through pressing sheet, the applique circle, the fusible of that circle, the bigger applique circle underneath, the fusible of that circle, and then the background fabric. That's a lot of layers, so we have to really make sure that we allow for that and for the steam to fully activate that component. When I'm done with this, I always like to turn the block over and I will remist it again with my plain water, and I will iron the whole thing again from the back. Often I'll just go ahead and use the pressing sheet since it's already kind of warmed up, but also it prevents again any sputters from transferring to the fabric. The pressing sheet also prevents any of the fusible material from seeping out from the edge of the applique and getting onto the sole plate. So I'm never going to have to clean my sole plate even after doing a very large fusible project. Some people don't like to mess with fusible just because the adhesive can transfer. But if you use a pressing sheet, it takes care of that issue. So I'm going to go ahead, and my block is dry. I can go ahead and turn this over, and again I want to make sure that, especially where we have compound pieces like the double circles, and make sure that we have given the fusible a chance to activate fully with both steam and heat. And I'll do this again until the block is dry, which is a good indication to me that we've given it enough time, and then I'll know that this process is complete. Well, it's pretty much as simple as that. I really like to have beautiful crisp edges, and that is one of the benefits of this laser cut and pre-fused applique. I don't know that you get much crisper than that. Almost looks like it was just printed on fabric. Really beautiful outcome here. I will save my dragonfly components and I will put those on after the blocks are together. But that is it for block number 3. Now, you've seen my studio here many times, both the downstairs and the upstairs, which tends to be messier. We'd really love to see photos of your studio. Don't try and clean it up first. We know that if it's messy, that you are very creative. So if you have a chance, send us a couple pictures of your workspace and maybe something that you're working on. This is it for block number 3. The next time you see me in this series, we'll be talking about block number 4. And block number 4, I believe, is also a square. Should be block number 5 is going to be our first rectangle in the series, which will be double size of this. I'm looking forward to seeing this go together as a whole top, but I know that's going to be several months down the road. But this is going to be a really bright and beautiful addition to the studio. Because this product is permanent even after it's washed and dried, I know this is going to be an heirloom for a long time and maintain that really crisp look that it has today. So thanks for stopping by the studio. Like, share, subscribe if you're willing to do that for us, and we look forward to seeing you again here in the studio next time. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of each other.